plus soutenable, de valoriser aussi les pépites de nos territoires qui portent ces challenges. Donc, sachez que moi, je serai aussi dans les parages toute la matinée. Donc, si vous souhaitez me rencontrer pour parler plus largement de l'ensemble des métiers que porte la French Tech ici à Grenoble et comment on aide les pépites du territoire, mais aussi l'ensemble de l'écosystème à les valoriser et à aller plus loin, je serais ravie d'échanger avec vous. Je ne vais pas vous prendre plus de temps pour ne pas prendre plus de retard sur votre agenda, mais en tout cas, je suis ravie de vous accueillir. Et puis, bonne session et bonne journée à tous.
Merci. Merci. Pour le déroulé de cette matinée, on vous propose dans un premier temps une présentation du projet européen Climat Boro par Matteo Satta. Après, la métropole présentera les éléments de son challenge. On aura une phase de questions-réponses et on pourra après rentrer un peu plus dans le détail de qu'est-ce que c'est que ce marché public innovant, comment il fonctionne et comment y participer si on est intéressé. Et tout d'abord, je laisse la parole. Ah, ouais. Vas-y.
Et peut-être, d'abord, je me présente également. Moi, j'interviendrai au côté de Bastien pour la présentation donc, du Challenge Marché Innovant de Grenoble. Je suis directeur de projet Grenoble-Alpes à la Métropole. Et c'est un Climat-Boro, c'est une démarche qui est liée à Grenoble-Alpes. Donc, je donnerai quelques mots aussi pour vous expliquer la consistance de ce projet urbain sur la métropole. Également, en fin de matinée, nous aurons une présentation succincte des autres challenges des villes européennes. Ça vous permettra d'avoir le panorama des attentes des villes européennes. Il y aura d'autres sessions réalisées, si vous souhaitez, pour avoir le détail de ces autres marchés publics innovants à venir.
Matteo.
Bonjour à tous. Je ne vous vois pas, je vois juste une petite partie de la salle, mais on va faire avec. Je vous remercie à tous pour être ici aujourd'hui pour entendre du challenge de Grenoble par rapport à notre projet. Je vais dépenser quelques mots sur le projet. Je vais chercher de faire le plus rapidement possible aussi parce que aujourd'hui, je pense que c'est bien de se concentrer sur le challenge de Grenoble et de Grenoble-Alpes Métropole et sur la procédure que Francesco Molinari, le collègue, va présenter après le challenge. Alors, je vais partager une toute petite présentation du projet. D'accord. Alors, je vous le mets en plein écran, si j'arrive. Alors, l'idée de ce projet, avant tout, pour commencer, ce projet est un projet qui fait partie de la mission des villes de la Commission européenne. Donc, ça veut dire, pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas, c'est une mission que la Commission européenne a décidé de mettre en place pour soutenir une centaine de villes, enfin, sont devenues 112, une centaine de villes, et Grenoble est l'une d'entre elles d'ailleurs, et pour faire si que les villes puissent tester créer des contrats climatiques, appelons-les comme ça, et tester tout ce euh, qui puisse permettre d'innover et avancer. Donc, nous avons deux filières. L'une, c'est celle des villes que je viens de vous présenter. L'autre, ce sont des projets précis, comme celui-ci. Le nôtre, c'est plutôt sur la planification urbaine, qui vont tester avec les villes. Donc, dans notre cas, comme vous voyez, ce sont des projets un peu particuliers parce que les projets Horizon Europe, normalement, sont des projets qui sont très sur la recherche, vraiment orientés à recherche souvent. Ici, nous avons un partenariat avec 14 villes sur 28 partenaires. Donc, nous avons un noyau très bien, très, très fort dans la recherche et développement, mais pas en termes de chiffres. Donc, nous avons des experts dans plusieurs domaines, de la transition climatique à la planification urbaine. Nous avons des experts des technologies de l'information. Mais après, nous avons vraiment ces 14 villes qui sont partagées en 3 groupes. Le premier groupe, c'est celui duquel on va discuter aujourd'hui. Ce sont les villes qu'on appelle leaders. Donc, ce sont les villes qui vont mettre en place tout de suite quelque chose. Puis, nous avons 6 followers, disons, divisés en 2 groupes. Il y en a 2 qui, pour le moment, observent simplement. L'un d'entre eux, d'ailleurs, vous le connaissez bien, c'est les Moulineaux, c'est en France. Et après, mais les followers, le principe, c'est que les followers, plus tard, vont essayer de nouveau de faire des pilotes pour soutenir pour répliquer, pour refaire ce que les leaders ont déjà fait. Alors, l'idée, pourquoi ce projet? Bon, c'est très simple, pour aller très vite. Je pense que vous avez écouté ce genre d'argument plusieurs fois. Aujourd'hui, nous avons les villes représentent la grande partie de la population, même s'ils sont une toute petite partie du territoire, et représentent une grande majorité aussi des émissions. Donc, nous sommes pour rejoindre la neutralité climatique. Les villes sont un enjeu important, central. Si on arrivera à résoudre ce problème, on arrivera à avancer beaucoup plus vite. Dans l'idée de climat bordeaux, et c'est pourquoi aussi on a cette procédure que on va vous présenter aujourd'hui, et ce sera surtout des experts à le faire, surtout pas moi. C'est l'idée que aujourd'hui nous avons besoin d'une circularité technologique, dans le sens que on a aujourd'hui sur le territoire plein d'innovations, énormément d'innovations, qui ne sont pas exploités ou ne sont pas exploités suffisamment. Donc, on a un problème de rencontre entre le marché et les villes, ou quand même les collectivités, pour le dire à la française. Donc, c'est très important de créer une gouvernance qui permette d'être plus stratégique et de connecter beaucoup plus le marché avec les collectivités. Donc, dans Climat Bordeaux, on a choisi de diviser les villes que je vous ai présentées tout à l'heure, de les partager surtout sur deux groupes. Des groupes qui sont des hubs, qui travaillent ensemble, mais ils travaillent ensemble dans le sens les hubs ensemble et dans le hub, les villes ensemble. On a deux figures clés qu'on appelait City Angels, que sont deux spécialistes de villes qui cherchent de modérer ces hubs, un peu en connectant les villes au reste du projet, mais surtout en connectant les villes entre elles-mêmes. Un des enjeux stratégiques pour nous, c'est que les villes puissent échanger ou les collectivités puissent échanger entre elles pour faire si qu'elles avancent beaucoup plus vite. Et donc, pour faire ça, évidemment, les hubs sont thématiques, dans le sens qu'on a énergie, mobilité d'un côté, et on a les déchets, la circularité de l'autre, en tenant en compte qu'on a considéré que ces domaines sont plus proches les uns des autres, et donc ça permet plus vite l'échange entre les villes et le rendre surtout plus efficace. Alors, pour terminer, et c'est vraiment la dernière slide, aussi parce que je veux vraiment qu'on se concentre sur cette procédure. C'est juste pour vous faire voir quel est le cycle du projet que quelque part et aussi le cycle d'une ville. Donc, les villes créent des challenges, comme il est arrivé dans les derniers 6 mois, et c'est pour ça qu'aujourd'hui on est ici. Après, on passe à des marchés innovants. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes un peu entre le 1 et le 2. Cette première partie qu'on a aujourd'hui, c'est la première phase phase de la deuxième phase. Mais on reste encore dans un principe un peu de co-création, dans le sens que ce que vous allez faire aujourd'hui, c'est d'aider à construire après les marchés. Puis, une fois qu'on aura fait les marchés, évidemment, on aura les solutions, on va les déployer, chaque ville va déployer sa solution. Et il y aura une évaluation de l'impact de ces pilotes d'un point de vue carbone, mais pas simplement. Et à suivre, il y aura une partie qui est d'ailleurs assez nouvelle, c'est ce qu'on appelle en anglais le mentoring for replication. Donc, ça sera les villes leaders vont aider à suivre les villes followers pour faire si qu'elles puissent recommencer le cycle de zéro. Voilà. Ceci était vraiment mon intervention. Je ne veux pas prendre plus de temps parce que je pense que c'est beaucoup plus intéressant de parler du cas de Grenoble, des collègues de Grenoble. Donc, je laisse la parole à Bastien et Olivier. Et merci à tous encore pour être ici.
Merci. À moi de présenter.
Peut-être une question, est-ce qu'on pourra avoir les slides en diffusion?
Oui, oui, oui.
Et oui.
Hop.
Qui était présent.
Ben, il est temps de passer maintenant à la présentation du challenge porté par la Métropole, mais je vais d'abord laisser la main à Olivier pour les premiers éléments de contexte.
Merci, Bastien. Oui, donc quand la métropole de Grenoble a décidé de candidater à l'appel à projet européen, elle l'a fait sur la base d'une expérimentation mise en œuvre sur un territoire de projet. Et donc, nous avons choisi le territoire du projet de Grande-Alpes. Peut-être que vous connaissez déjà, vous avez entendu parler un petit peu de ce territoire. Grande-Alpes, c'est un territoire et un grand projet urbain. Je commence par vous parler du territoire et je vous donnerai quelques informations sur le projet urbain pour que vous compreniez le contexte de mise en application du marché public innovant. Vous avez ici une photo aérienne de la région grenobloise où le périmètre est détouré. Quelques points de repère, la voie rapide, la rocade qu'on voit ici au sud. Au centre du territoire, on reconnaît Carrefour et Grand Place. Et au nord, on englobe la ville neuve de Grenoble. Et puis on peut voir en vue aérienne, c'est un élément caractéristique du territoire, plusieurs grands sites industriels. Ici, l'ancienne friche à Libert, qui est maintenant démolie. Et puis ici, les terrains qui auparavant étaient occupés en intégralité par HP et qui sont en train d'évoluer aussi. Voilà. Donc, il y a beaucoup de terrains industriels qui sont en évolution sur ce territoire. Quelques indications générales sur le territoire de la métropole. Vous avez ici la cartographie des 49 communes. Aujourd'hui, on est à 450 000 habitants, 546 km². C'est un territoire, quand on y pense au niveau national, par exemple, on a l'esprit, l'université, la recherche, le triptyque un petit peu, recherche, université, industrie. On pourrait ajouter diversité. Aujourd'hui, avec cette échelle-là, c'est un territoire sur lequel on a de la ville dense, de la montagne, on a une diversité de situations géographiques et sociales. Merci. Grande-Alpes, donc vous reconnaissez ici le périmètre qui était tout à l'heure illustré sur la photo aérienne, périmètre qui se situe sur 3 communes, Grenoble, Échirolles et Hébin. Quelques caractéristiques de Grande-Alpes, 30 000 habitants, ok, 40 000 emplois. Donc ça, c'est une caractéristique remarquable à laquelle on ne pense pas forcément pour ce territoire du Sud. Il y a énormément d'emplois, 40 000 emplois, c'est un pôle de tout premier plan, au même titre que la presqu'île ou que Innovalet et la branche nord-est. Donc on a un tissu qui est composé d'industries notamment, et il y a de l'industrie de pointe aussi sur ce territoire. Territoire qui est bien desservi par les transports en commun, avec notamment la halte ferroviaire d'Échirolles, qui a vocation à devenir une gare, sur laquelle le niveau de desserte est amené à monter. Et puis territoire qui est très bien desservi aussi par la route, on a vu tout à l'heure la rocade sud, également par le tramway bien sûr. Il y a de grands équipements, Alpexpo, évidemment, qui ont un rayonnement régional, voire parfois international pour certaines manifestations. Il y a des centres de formation supérieure, dont la Cité des Territoires, l'école d'architecture. On a l'hôpital Sud aussi, qui est sur ce territoire, et puis des équipements sportifs structurants. Donc, cet ensemble fait que aujourd'hui, ce territoire de Grande-Alpes, il a un potentiel qui est fort et c'est un potentiel qui est à révéler parce qu'il y a aussi un déficit d'image. Et aujourd'hui, sur les 400 hectares donc, que représente ce territoire, il y en a 100 qui sont amenés à être transformés. Ça, c'est assez inédit en matière de situation et de potentiel pour faire évoluer un territoire. Ce sont notamment les friches industrielles, donc que vous avez observé, très grandes. Et également, il y a un programme de renouvellement des quartiers des villes neuves avec des financements importants qui sont mobilisés par les collectivités locales et par l'État, qui est le principal financeur du renouvellement de ces quartiers, qui fait qu'il y a une transformation vraiment qui est en cours sur ce territoire. Et la métropole et les communes, on en fait un lieu d'expérimentation sur lequel on vise un objectif d'exemplarité environnementale. Et donc, c'est un territoire sur lequel on va pouvoir tester justement des méthodes ou des nouveaux ingrédients dans les projets. Et donc, c'est le territoire idéal justement pour l'accompagnement et la mise en œuvre d'idées qui vont être mises en place dans le cadre de Climat-Boro. Je passe la parole à Bastien pour quelques éléments de contexte sur les aspects climatiques.
Effectivement, l'expérimentation pensée par la métropole, elle pourra commencer sur ce territoire de projet qui fait office de laboratoire d'innovation. Pour autant, il est important de remonter un petit peu en cadre. L'expérimentation anticipée par la métropole, elle répond à toute une série d'éléments qui sont devenus structurants dans les politiques publiques de la collectivité. Le premier, évidemment, je ne vous apprends pas, c'est le changement climatique. Ce que je vous apprends peut-être, et je n'espère pas, c'est que ce changement est 2 fois plus rapide dans les territoires alpins. Il va 2 fois plus vite et il est la responsabilité de la collectivité de pouvoir construire dès maintenant une ville qui soit capable de survivre au climat de 2050. Le climat de 2050, c'est des jours de canicule bien plus nombreux, bien plus forts, bien plus condensés. C'est des étés sur lesquels il pourrait y avoir parfois 20 à 35 jours de canicule d'affilée. L'objectif phare, c'est pour la collectivité de pouvoir atténuer le changement climatique en réduisant nos effets de serre, mais surtout adapter nos villes. Ces éléments, c'est une des briques qui constitue le challenge que nous portons. Le deuxième, c'est que certes, le changement climatique et l'augmentation généralisée des températures affectent l'ensemble du territoire métropolitain, mais avec une diversité en fonction des situations topographiques, géographiques, urbaines, c'est ce qu'on appelle les îlots de chaleur. D'une rue à l'autre, vous pouvez retrouver à un même moment de la journée, surtout de la nuit, des températures radicalement différentes, beaucoup plus élevées. Toute une série d'éléments permettent de catégoriser ces îlots de chaleur, les questions de matériaux des bâtiments, la question de la circulation de l'air, la question de l'imperméabilisation des sols ou non, la question aussi des effets canyon de certaines rues, de certaines cours. Cette situation d'îlot de chaleur qui constitue une véritable problématique dans la mesure où on se retrouve à des nuits où les températures ne baissent pas, où ça ne se rafraîchit pas, où la canicule se poursuit, y compris jusqu'à 4h à 5h du matin. Ces situations, elles sont amenées à se répéter et si on ne fait rien, à s'aggraver. C'est donc l'une des deuxièmes briques du challenge que nous portons, changement climatique et augmentation localisée au travers des îlots de chaleur. Troisième, vous commencez à le voir, c'est le rapport au sol, la clé pour rafraîchir nos villes et pour adapter nos villes au climat de 2050. C'est le rapport au sol. On se retrouve ici dans une véritable situation paradoxale, problématique très française, où nous avons un modèle d'aménagement de nos territoires qui est basé fondamentalement depuis les années 60-70 sur l'étalement urbain. On consomme des terres agricoles, naturelles, on reconstruit nos friches industrielles en zone d'habitat, on s'étale progressivement. C'est 47 hectares par an entre 2005 et 2015 sur le territoire de la métropole de Grenoble, c'est-à-dire 558 hectares. C'est des gros chiffres, on peut peut-être se donner en référentiel. C'est l'équivalent d'une commune, comme le Fontaine-Cornillon, dans l'espace de dizaines d'années artificialisé. Et si on ne fait rien, c'est comme ça qu'on continue à aménager nos villes. Ça signifie, sans action rapide et efficace, que d'ici 2050, les plaines de Rémur ou les grandes plaines de la Tailla perdront leur nature agricole au profit de vastes zones d'habitat, essentiellement d'ailleurs dans le modèle actuel pavillonnaire. En coup d'arrêt est mis au niveau national à cette politique d'aménagement, c'est ce qu'on appelle le zéro artificialisation nette. Ça signifie tendre pour 2030 puis 2050 à stopper radicalement toute forme d'artificialisation nouvelle des terres. Ça pose donc la question de comment est-ce qu'on est plus sobre dans notre aménagement, comment est-ce qu'on construit là où la ville existe déjà, avec une autre problématique qui est que nous avons une exigence de continuer à produire du logement, pour loger les nouveaux habitants, pour permettre aussi à tout le monde de se loger, c'est-à-dire à trouver des typologies d'habitat qu'on ne trouve pas forcément dans le marché actuel, des logements pour personnes âgées, des logements pour jeunes, des questions intergénérationnelles. Et puis surtout, une dynamique assez forte de pouvoir continuer à proposer un marché immobilier qui soit accessible à tout le monde. Donc voilà, cette double contrainte de continuer à produire du logement et en même temps de ne plus pouvoir artificialiser de nouvelles terres extérieures, c'est la troisième brique du challenge proposé.
Ouais.
Tu termines? Il y a pas de questions?
Non,
Et la dernière.
Il y a un besoin aussi d'accueillir des entreprises.
Bien sûr, en termes de
productifs, etc. Donc, toute cette.
Et la dernière, évidemment, c'est la question de la fraîcheur en ville, de la nature en ville, de la végétation en ville, cet enjeu de végétalisation. Un des éléments clés pour rafraîchir nos villes, c'est retrouver un accès à la pleine terre, retrouver un accès à la végétation, retrouver de l'ombrage par les arbres. C'est la question du développement de la canopée pour l'ombrage métropolitain, c'est les questions aussi des différentes strates. Retrouver de la végétation, c'est pas uniquement planter des arbres, c'est aussi avoir un accès net où d'autres végétations peuvent se produire en dessous, etc. Voici la quatrième brique du challenge. Ces quatre briques, finalement, ils convergent pour adapter nos villes au climat de 2050. Il faut réussir à lutter contre l'étalement urbain, à retrouver une urbanité là où la ville est déjà construite, assurer en même temps une lutte contre les îlots de chaleur. Pour ça, derrière, ça signifie désimperméabiliser, réussir à retrouver de la pleine terre en cœur de ville. et derrière assurer aussi une dimension de végétalisation. Voilà, tout ceci converge finalement sur une question, un élément à suivre, un élément à monitorer, c'est l'usage de nos sols. On a un besoin assez fort. Ce besoin, il n'est pas propre à la métropole. On s'y lance peut-être à corps perdu en premier, mais il va généraliser sur l'ensemble des grandes métropoles françaises. Ce besoin, il porte sur aussi un constat qui est qu'actuellement, nous sommes incapables de réussir à suivre à l'échelle de la métropole l'évolution de l'usage de nos sols. Nous sommes capables d'avoir une modélisation assez large de la quantité de terrains qui ont été artificialisés, mais c'est très, très, très modulaire. On est capable d'avoir une vision très précise sur les sites avec des études, donc sur une friche ou un terrain, on est capable de pouvoir dire, voilà, en l'espace de 5 ans, 10 ans, on a artificialisé tant, mais réussir à suivre d'année en année combien d'hectares, combien de mètres carrés ont été artificialisés, combien ont été désartificialisés, combien ont été végétalisés, quelle est l'augmentation de la couverture végétale de nos villes. Est-ce qu'on va dans la bonne direction? Être capable aussi de pouvoir, au travers de ces éléments, l'usage des sols, la place de la végétation, la couverture de la canopée, de pouvoir modéliser l'impact que cela peut avoir sur les îlots de chaleur, de réussir peut-être aussi à se dire, avec ces éléments en main, comment est-ce que nous pouvons guider nos projets d'aménagement, deux scénarios possibles sur l'aménagement d'un terrain, les critères sont identifiés, avec les données de ce type, quel serait l'impact positif ou négatif sur la couverture canopée, sur l'usage des sols et donc derrière sur les questions de température. C'est finalement ça, le challenge que nous souhaitons avoir, réussir à développer à la fois une donnée, mais surtout un outil capable de monitorer cette donnée qui nous permette de mesurer, de suivre l'évolution de la désartificialisation et de la végétalisation dans nos villes, de pouvoir modéliser l'impact sur les îlots de chaleur et peut-être dans le rêve de pouvoir modéliser l'impact des projets urbains sur la chaleur ressentie et sur les éléments d'écologie.
Voilà, cette diapositive essaye de résumer les objectifs de cet outil et il y a 3 étapes. La première étape, c'est d'arriver à avoir la vision, la connaissance de l'état des sols aujourd'hui, à l'instant T. Donc, visualiser leur artificialisation, leur couverture végétale, et puis visualiser aussi à minima les îlots de chaleur. Donc, c'est une base de données cartographiée, mais qui doit être commune à toutes ces données, qui doit être interopérable, et j'ajouterais évolutive, c'est-à-dire que pour les étapes ultérieures, il peut être intéressant de croiser ces informations avec des données de qualité de l'air, par exemple, ou des données sur l'écologie, la biodiversité. À partir du moment où on a cette photographie, ce T0 et cet outil qui est en place, base de données cartographie générale, la deuxième étape, c'est de s'en servir pour évaluer l'efficacité des projets d'aménagement déployés. Donc, on le teste sur Grenoble-Alpes, mais l'idée, c'est ensuite de faire à plus large échelle. Mise en œuvre des projets, évaluation de leurs impacts, en termes de température ressentie notamment, donc évaluation à travers cette base de données qu'on peut faire sur un territoire, sur un périmètre. On pourrait faire des analyses un petit peu croisées pour dire, bah voilà, l'effet sur Grenoble-Alpes, l'effet uniquement sur la température, qu'on puisse s'en servir comme un outil de référence pour cette efficacité des politiques publiques de la métropole. Et troisième étape, c'est la mise au point d'un outil de modélisation des projets, c'est-à-dire d'être capable de se dire, OK, avec notre base de données et l'évaluation des projets, on est capable, on a mis en place un système qui va permettre de prévoir, d'évaluer l'effet des futurs projets sur le réchauffement climatique, éventuellement sur la biodiversité, etc. Ça, c'est extrêmement intéressant parce que ça permettra d'apporter une aide à la décision urbaine pour avoir des projets qui soient aussi efficaces que possible en matière justement d'adaptation au réchauffement climatique et des objectifs visés par la démarche. Voilà les 3 étages de l'outil.
Bon, à ce niveau-là, il semble aussi important de préciser d'où on part. On ne part pas de rien. Tu sais bien que ces questions d'imperméabilisation, de végétalisation, etc., elles travaillent profondément et en transversalité l'ensemble de l'action publique. On a déjà un travail de définition et de précision. De quoi on parle, des concepts. Donc, on a déjà un travail en cours pouvoir définir basiquement ce qui est imperméabilisé, ce qui n'est pas imperméabilisé, qu'est-ce que c'est un territoire désimperméabilisé, ce qui pose de nombreuses questions sur une carrière, est-ce que c'est un espace imperméabilisé ou pas? Un challenge qui peut se faire là-dessus. On travaille également en cours pour préciser ce que c'est qu'une couverture végétale, à partir de quel moment on qualifie un élément de canopée, est-ce qu'il y a plusieurs éléments de canopée, quel impact ça peut avoir en termes d'ombrage en dessous. Et un travail qui est là, par contre, très engagé sur la définition d'un îlot de chaleur, ses critères, comment est-ce qu'elle se distingue, est-ce qu'il y a différents types, comment est-ce qu'un îlot de chaleur se construit. Ça, c'est un petit peu la base de concept qui a déjà été soit réalisé, soit très fortement avancé. De l'autre côté, évidemment, on a la question des données. J'aurais tendance à dire, avec des mots crus, que le fléau des collectivités, c'est qu'on meurt sous la donnée. Donc, on a une très grande quantité de données qui n'est pas toujours connue, interopérable. Vous retrouvez évidemment toutes les données de cadastre, hein, mais qui sont assez peu exploitées sur ce type de sujet. Vous retrouvez des données d'IDAR, donc 5 km à ma connaissance, et qui sont encore assez peu exploitées, notamment sur la manière dont on pourrait les utiliser pour les modéliser avec les formes urbaines. On va retrouver une absence quasi totale de données, ou en tout cas aisément utilisables sur la nature des revêtements, qui a un impact assez important sur les questions de température ressentie et sur les questions d'îlots de chaleur. Vous avez évidemment tous les permis de construire qui sont assez intéressants pour suivre justement cette donnée d'imperméabilisation, des imperméabilisations des sols, mais qui actuellement ne sont pas
monitor better. So we need to have
de manière, on va dire,
construction permit information is not yet being used correctly. And concerning the inventory of the limited arbs to the remarkable trees, or the limited trees to the remarkable trees inventory, this is very important so we can look at the nature, species, the age, size of trees, etc. We also have this issue of the use of satellites and aerial pictures were not sufficient. We don't have enough tools which will enable us to interpret, for example, the nature of the soil. And so this can be a problem because when we want to, for example, forecast the number of buildings and we don't have the inventory of nature, this can really be a problem. And we can consider that we have a lot of data, often though good quality, but they're not interoperable in some cases. And often, though, the data are not well known by all the different users of data in, and for example, they're not known by all the different Métropole teams. So we have to work more on having more interoperable data. We have a real need concerning the use of this data and have data that can be well connected and well known. And for me, this is what I wanted to say for my presentation of this challenge. Do you have any questions? We do have a lot of reactions. I see there's some colleagues from the Metropole who have a better mastery of the data than we do. So don't hesitate to add something. Thank you very much. A question in the project. We already have some parallel solutions. Are you going to start with those who already have the skills? What is your position? We will have this position phase concerning the different expectations concerning the innovative procurement market and it's a innovative procurement, innovative public market. There is a will to assume R&D, research and development. In my opinion, there are no counterindications for people to join us. The interest is to come up with a result that is pertinent. We also consider this a personal idea that what we've already have done. Sometimes we want to go into the right direction very quickly, not reinvent the wheel and use what already exists and to go on from there. Now, concerning the data today, we have a certain number of data but to capitalize and have them interoperable, to use the data in an operational way, it would be important. And especially in our area, each time we will have some gaps because it's not in our area of expertise. And for example, the canopy plan, that's an example where of this, and this is where we'll have some gaps. And then there's some data which is more prospective because professions uh, have not yet reached this level. So we work with some of our partners. We're trying to resolve these kinds of issues, but there is a real issue and some gaps in data. I did have a question. We talked about modelization. There will be the mapping problem. Is it the idea is that we have this three different areas that you saw in the three different bubbles for the territory? So the idea, how can we work with some mechanisms so we can look at the impact and we say, okay, so that we can say, okay, we have this construction model. Does it correspond to the a viable future of a city?
Il semblerait que nous ayons un petit retour du son. La traduction italienne qui est
Io ti preparo tutto intanto. Ok. Va bene.
Someone should mute their
No,
microphone.
dai,
No, se hanno una situazione elettronica ce la mandano ce la rimandate nella procura che ci siamo persa. Poi in generale
c'est le micro, ouais. Ah, plus compris. Ouais.
Eh bien, pour répondre donc à la question.
To respond to the question, in fact, we are aware of the fact that the different initiatives by the Métropole will be looking at these different areas. And the role that we want to give for this project, this innovative project, is to be like a locomotive, like an engine driving force, so that all these different initiatives can be aggregated. It's important to have this like a driving force so that we can have transversality, and there will be the different hubs for the different steps. We can talk about the question of the nature and freshness in the city, but there are other themes that will be coming up where we have to have traceability. We have to have this interoperable data for these kinds of hubs. So the nature of the tools that is required could serve also as a basis for the next future hubs for transversality of data. For example, we can look at the question of noise, quality of air, etc., etc. So if we can have a global tool which enables us to evaluate and modelize urban projects, then we would really been very successful. For the tool that needs to be developed, that will be starting to develop with all these different heat islands, vegetation issues, all of that should be put together in a tool. And so we need to construct today the future city of tomorrow. This is what this is the principle of innovation that we this is where the service doesn't exist is what we want to concentrate on. So we would like to then the aim is to have funding in those kinds of areas that are neglected. We don't master these data, but the interest of public procurement is to exchange with all the different promoters of solution. We have this, maybe you could see dreams and idealistic approach, but also we are realistic, and we know that all the different actions for climate change are utopian, but we want to start though on step by step. So the question of use of soil is important, and the idea of nature and the greening cities is important. So if this tool is valid and that it will be useful tool, this is what our aim is. So this hub is very important. It's based on themes. The question is, what is the usage of this hub? Is it for specialists or for public? So is it really for specialists, or should be this tool open to the public in general? This is a very intense debate that we have already had. There are different target groups. The first level and the first phase is a technical target, people that are really involved in urban planning. And then urban planning is not only in isolation, it's with partners. So the idea is from the first phase, we also have all the different ecosystems, and for the planning of cities and fabrication of cities are important. At the same time, we are lucid. We have different elements that we have already presented, so we have to continue to construct housing in cities, and so these have an impact on climate change. We're aware of that. Also, with this hub, there's the opportunity to be looking at issues like accessibility, interfaces, so that we can really shed light on issues. Yes, there's densification, there's be a higher density in New York City, but at the national level, the aim is to improve the living in cities. And so what's very interesting is to have education for our populations as well. So we have both. The first steps clearly are related to the tool. We do know this tool should be used for something that can be used for the external purposes also outside the metropole. The Grenoble-Alpes sites for this project. My question is the databases that will be national, European, local, or micro-local database. How will the hub be able to really have a transversal approach to all this data? How can they be able to make this data comparable? If this is the aim of the exercise, to have comparable data for the hub. So you have a multiple source of data. How can you be able to have comparable data from one commune to another? Yes, the reason that we already have been working on this is some data is less available. For example, the urban heat islands. We have other areas of France have the same issue. And so one of the reasons that the territory in our area is experimenting, this is because we have these issues here, for example, the heat islands. The constraints is not to just exclusively use this data for the Grenoble-Alpes, but it should be also use others. So the Grenoble-Alpes is a laboratory R&D specialist in this area. We do know that we need to develop this kind of tool so we construct the city as well as possible for the future. It's not limited to the Grenoble-Alpes. There are other cities that are interested, and in other areas of the world as well. We have to start with something, and to start and fine-tune this tool, then Grenoble-Alpes has been chosen as the idea is to have Grenoble-Alpes as for experimentation for this tool. So the architecture should be conceived in mind. So these are part of the main objectives of the Climat Bureau. So we want to develop things that can be replicated elsewhere. Maybe not in the world, but this we want to have adaptation and common use. And so I want to know about the timing, more pragmatic. You have the project, you have experimentation. What are the milestones? We do have a presentation on that right after that. Just to say another point, basically, with zero net approach takes time, and nobody, in fact, could not really, in the past, realize the impact of all these climate change. So the question of monitoring and evolution of soil is very important. It's a subject that will be involved in all these different technical debates in France. We're not the only ones who are questioning this usage of soil, artificialization of soil. And also these urban heat islands are also another area that we have to work on very quickly as possible. The tool that is envisioned will be monitoring the soil, and some can make this use of this tool very quickly in other parts of the territory. Concerning the heat islands, we feel that we have advanced in this area, a subject which is maybe less important for other parts of France, but could be of interest in certain cities, though. Are there any other questions, reactions from your side? I do have a little question. We have a controversial subject. The interpreter apologizes. He is not speaking with the microphone. So how can we organize the project? So in that area, we will have someone financed by the project for the future years. So that in fact, for example, the Climat Bureau will be talking about this innovative area, and we have the transversal approach also, and the mapping will be very important, and urbanism and planning will also be very much involved. So the will is to have one single window for Climat Bureau so that we could have good coordination, and that's why we want a single window approach for entry into this program for coordination purposes. A political question. The political advantage is for the Grenoble-Alpes to take up this challenge, but also take up the different environmental issues by those who are responsible for this. So urbanization is very important to take up these different climate change challenges. The political collective mandate is very important. So it's a multi-themes. What's very important today is to have a steering that has been well identified, but the idea is very transversal. And so, for example, the use of green spaces in the city are very important when we talk about modularization. So, for example, you can have new neighborhoods, you have the form of the buildings, you also have the use of the public spaces. So what is vegetalization? That's the question. And the idea is to be able to test a project and to have the project evolve so that you can have an estimation of the impact on climate change. That's an important area. And the aim is to employ different elected officials, as many as possible, to take them on board and have them really be motivated about this project and their engagement. There's a lot of artificialization and our different planning areas. So you have the permits for construction, which are very important in that area. We have these, of course, we have to take into consideration that, and so that we can improve. And when we have construction, we look at it's important to have, for example, continue with different parks, gardens. This is a big challenge as well for the urbanism agency. How the interpreter apologizes that she's not using a microphone. We do know there's a lot of elements that are being built up, and for example, issues concerning the trees, soil coverage, etc. Concerning the consultations for the public procurement, what are your expectations? In fact, there's no integrator for this, no follow-up. Will there be a consortium, synergy between the different territorial actors, so we can have a response based on this element or another element? Will there be mapping? Will be like putting a puzzle together where we work together for these questions connected to public procurement? We do have a presentation by Francesco concerning the procurement mechanism, which will answer those kinds of questions. So it is a public market tendering process, but we have lots of rules, of course, that need to be applied. We'll be hearing about that later in Francesco's presentation. We can analyze your different professions connected to this offer. There is not the necessity to have one single structure. We can also have the idea of a consortium seems to be an interesting approach, because if we have diverse issues that respond to diverse problems, and then a consortium, it sounds like a good answer. With the different lighthouse project now, we had a consortium with the industrial actors. A consortium or a grouping, yes, so you can call it what you want, but to have a formalization of called a consortium or a grouping. Any other questions or reactions? If we don't have any others, maybe we're going to now go to the presentation of concerning the procedure, the European market. These are from Francesco will do the presentation. The presentation is in English, and if you would like, you can have direct presentation.
Et Francesco, it's up to you.
So Francesco, you have the floor.
Francesco, just a second. Bastien, I have like, let's say, something to say according to the logistics organization. I have to apologize for the people online. There was a problem with the link. Then a lot of people joined a bit late because of that. Then if any of them wants to ask a question, ask something, I mean, it's time now. If you want, you can. I apologize again. I mean, we actually don't know what happened, but that's the point. We now send the link to everyone, but it's obviously a bit late. If any of the people online wants to talk, just let us know. Otherwise, we go to Francesco, and you will be obviously be able to ask the question even later when there is the Q&A of Francesco. Okay, seems good. Francesco, go on.
Thank you, Matteo. Good morning, bonjour à tout le monde. Je n'étais pas préparé à parler en français.
I was not prepared to speak in French. I'm very sorry. My French will be suffering. I can use my French in vacation, but so I prefer to speak in English.
To English. Okay, just a few words connecting with what Matteo just said. This is not a normal workshop. This is part of a formal procedure, and my task today is to reconnect the contents of this workshop, which is being recorded, and so the people who joined later can access the recording, which will be published very soon on the website of our project. My task today is to reconnect the contents of today's workshop with the procedure that is going to follow in a matter of months from now. So my proposal also for the organizers of today's consultation is to spend some time later in summarizing the challenge, also for the benefit of the people who couldn't join in time. And I will have also my own questions to those who presented, so I will add mine during the presentation I have prepared. I assume that it's on me to share the screen, so I will do it right away. Here it is. Now you should see my full screen, and now you should see the next slide after the title. Please confirm, because I cannot see the chat. Okay, thank you so much. So, as I just said, this is a special kind of workshop. It is named Preliminary Market Consultation, not because we gave this name to it, but because the law says that. The law uses this term. I will have another slide with all the references to the European law, so no worries. Now let's focus on the purpose of this event, which is to acquire information from the participants regarding existing solutions which may fit into the requirements of the city of Grenoble. These solutions can either be products or services that already exist in the market. Now, going back to the challenge as it was described nicely by the organizers, it's obviously about a platform, or maybe we should think of components of that platform for the reason that I'm about to explain, which is related to the cost, the budget of this operation. Anyway, a platform using existing data and probably also new data on soil and related topics, which may also exist in the state of the art. So we would love hearing from you guys seated in the room, connected from remote, if platforms like that already exist in the state of the art. We don't think so, but just in case, we would be ready to evaluate the existing platforms and start a procedure for buying these platforms if they already exist. If they don't, we would also accept prototypes. So in terms of TRL, TRL stands for technology readiness level, and it is a scale from 1 to 9, where 9 means that it's a product or service you can buy in the market. 5 or 6 means that the prototype has left the laboratory and already started being tested in real or realistic environments. So starting from 5 or 6, again, for reasons related to the budget, seems to us appropriate. Nevertheless, we are ready to accept any other suggestion concerning prototypes that go in the direction stated within the challenge. What is going to happen is that ANCI Toscana, the entity I represent today, ANCI Toscana is the community of Tuscan municipalities. There are about 380 municipalities in Tuscany. All of them are gathered in this association. And we are also the leaders of the Climaboro project. We will launch a call for tender in September this year, allowing sufficient time to present proposals, and I will be back on that later, exactly based on the results of this consultation and what is going to happen next, which I will explain in separate. The call will have an approximate budget of 287,000 euros and aims to reward 2 distinct and independent solution providers. This is a very important aspect that I want to raise to your attention. That's why I said before, it's probably better to think of vertical components of the big platform instead of a huge single platform solving all the problems at the same time, because the budget may not enough. And also, there could be, now I'm just figuring out things that I don't know. Take this as a question for the city of Grenoble. We can also think of different categories of data which are collected in different ways, and they are managed by these different components of the same platform in different ways. In so doing, we could achieve the goal of having maybe components of the platform already in operation, those, for example, where data is already existing or where data can be completed, made complete in a relatively short time. And again, take this as a platform for the city of Grenoble, take this as a question for the city of Grenoble, which should tell us and will tell us which specific categories of data exist, which are priority for them, which of them are supposed to be a matter for experts, because I can imagine that cadastral data, for example, is something that can be of interest for organizations, but there can also be other typologies of data, maybe new data that is not being collected at the moment, which can be of more interest for people. This is another comment I want to make. I missed something because I tried to listen in French, but the dimension of people engagement, I would like to hear from the representatives of the city of Grenoble how important they have that in mind. So the usage of collected data, is it for whom? for which purposes going beyond support for decision making. In my opinion, an important component of this challenge could also be spreading the information out to people, to citizens, to tourists about specific categories of data, which is not to say that the whole of the platform should do that, but probably that a component of that platform should be more focused on delivering to citizens, while another, maybe the most important part of the platform, should be focused on delivering to policymakers, decision makers, enterprises, and so on. And this is facilitated, in our opinion, by the fact that we are aiming to finance two distinct and independent solutions. And I will explain how in one of my next slides. Participants in the call, whom do we expect? Any kind of established organization. So we welcome the broadest possible participation, and the access criteria we are figuring out will be very low, very loose, because we want to give priority to the innovativeness, the originality, the smartness of solutions compared with the standard collection of references from past work, past jobs that normally accompanies this kind of tenders. Another important remark is that there are other 7 European cities with comparable budgets and different challenges, but in many cases, overlapping challenges. So the real budget we have at ANCI Toscana for this call is 8 times higher, and the city of Grenoble will just be the location of one of the 8 lots of this call. So there will be opportunity for some of these economic operators and also research institutions we are welcoming to our call to participate in additional lots and have additional chances of being successful, maybe with very similar solutions. Now let me go to the next slide. I hope you can see there is a nice picture on the left with iPhones or telephones forming a pyramid. So that's my next slide, just in case the machine doesn't work properly. So today we are discussing, and I will be glad to hear if there are additional questions from your side, additional questions from the people who joined later. I recommend my colleagues from the city of Grenoble doing a short summary of the challenge, just the 2 slides where you mention the state of the art and what you want to get. I think it will be enough. So based on the discussion today, we are eager to know in which direction we should position the requirements of the call for tender. Now we are not yet in the phase where people sit down and start writing the call for tender, which is obviously protected by privacy and confidentiality, because any information disclosed prior to the publication of a call would be a crime, would be an issue for those who disclose it. Now we are not yet in that phase, and we will not be there until the end of July, and probably also until the end of August. And during this phase, we welcome suggestions on where to go, based on state-of-the-art solutions, as I said in my previous slide. Anyway, we can figure out 5 elements of the successful solutions. So whatever the direction that the call takes, we expect there will be 5 elements of the awarded solutions which will stay. And these 5 elements are listed in this slide. First of all, the solution should fit within the perimeter of the challenge. It's not that we will change our mind and when the call is published, we will ask for something else. Here it is exactly the space where you are invited to contribute, and I will tell you later how. Second component, we are looking for solutions involving people, not only technologies. This is probably related to my question to the city of Grenoble. How important is the human dimension in this platform? Of course, a platform helping better decision-making from the city will obviously be an integration of elements belonging to the human with elements belonging to the non-human dimension. But there can probably be more, which can also come from your discussion, your suggestions during the discussion. Third element, the cost. I already mentioned. That is the budget. Don't ask me why. This is what we have, and this is what we can share. So we cannot think of changing the world. Of course, we are looking for the best starting point from which to move forward and solve or contribute to solving the climate issue at city level and at broader European level. For this reason, despite their being low cost, we think the winning solutions should be scalable. The need, the requirements expressed so far by the city of Grenoble through their challenge are not only peculiar to the city of Grenoble. The issue of soil, I happen to be involved, thanks to Anci Toscana, in another European funded project on soil health, soil quality, is a brand new topic, is a brand new issue, but it's extremely relevant in the perspective, in the European perspective, where it is said, according to certain statistics, that 2/3 of European soils are polluted. Agricultural soils, industrial soils, urban soils, any kind of soil, 2/3 are compromised by contaminations of different kinds. So the focus on soil is very current, and I bet with you that a solution like the one that the city of Grenoble is aiming at may have good chances of being, first of all, scalable, and then transferable. Scalable because it is obviously something that cannot be deployed on a massive scale for the entire city territory, but should focus, as I proposed, on either a specific category of data or maybe a specific location. This is another question for my colleagues at the city of Grenoble. Would it make sense that we narrow the focus on a specific part of the Grenoble Métropole and say, okay, this is exactly where we want to do the experimentation. We punctually define this area, which was introduced earlier, but it is very wide. So something less wide than that, but where the solution can be scaled up in case it works, covering the entire target territory. And in that case, I bet with you that the City Hall would be happy of putting their own budget in the scaling of the solution. Same goes for the transferable. From city A, from city B. Like I said, Grenoble is not alone, and the soil challenge is incredibly current at the European level in this very moment. Now, let me clarify again what the key milestones are ahead of us. today, apologizing also from my side for what happened with some people connected remotely or trying to connect remotely. We have launched the discussion on the challenge, which was later earlier presented by our colleagues at the city of Grenoble. Nevertheless, the discussion is not over. Like I said, today we can make additional questions, but we can also present ideas or solutions we know about, and we can do that also until the end of July, taking benefit from the fact that the preliminary market consultation is recorded. Its proceedings will be published very soon on the website of our project, Climaborrow, where there is a dedicated section to the city of Grenoble. And in that section, there is also a template you can download and you can use to send a written contribution to the City Hall. 2 days ago, we did a consultation in Sofia, and I'm happy to announce that we already have a good number of contributions received from, I don't know why, because I didn't have the time of checking, but people who either attended or maybe not even attended the event, like today's event, because they had other problems, other issues, other commitments, but nevertheless, they looked at the proceedings and they sent us the solution in writing. We will publish all these contributions on the website of the city, in that case, Sofia, now Grenoble, for a matter of transparency, because like I said, again, this is not a normal workshop. This is part of an administrative procedure, and the only chance we have to be exempt from any blame on breaking the law is that we give to every participant the same information. So we will anyway publish all the contributions received on the website of the project. If you plan on sending something to us, just make sure that the entirety of the information contained in the contribution is can be shared, can be disclosed. If there is any part with confidential contents, just point to us. I would prefer that this paragraph or this attachment is not published, and we will drop it before publishing. Then, like I said, the end of the month of September is the indicative date for publication of our call. Actually, we have an internal meeting in Cascais, another city of the consortium, on the 21st of September. So it's highly likely that we will use the meeting to do the final adjustments to the call, and then we will publish it until the end of the month. But there will be enough time for you to prepare proposals, and so we are planning to give a comfortable deadline also to further spread the news about this call for tender, which will be published on TED, which is the online version of the official journal of the European communities. And the deadline, the last milestone we have with us is June next year, when we expect to sign the 16 procurement contracts with the 16 solution providers, 2 of them per each of the participant cities. As you can see, there is 6 months of lag between the end, the deadline for bidders, and the signature of the contract. In one of my next slides, I will explain to you how we are planning to fill in this gap. It's not a matter of being lazy, it's a matter of doing interesting things also for the participants in this semester between December, January, and June. The legal framework. Everything we are doing is legal. The instrument we chose for the call for tender is named Innovation Partnership. I will explain to you why it is so important and so interesting for us. It is defined by an article of the European Procurement Directive of 2014, Article 31. The legal basis for ANCI acting on behalf of the 8 cities is in another article of the same procurement directive. It is also in the Clamaboro Grant Agreement, which was signed with the European Commission. The preliminary market consultation, named as such, derives from the provisions of Article 40 of the same directive on procurement of the European Commission, which was adopted in each and every member state, including France and Italy. We provided a collection of answers to frequently asked questions in case you want to know more, and you can always contact us using the institutional email address we provided on the website, or simply contacting the city of Grenoble for more information on the contents of this website. The prior information notice of the procedure of this event today and also of the future call for tender is, like I said, planned to be published or has been published on the official journal of the European Union. So the process we are now experiencing today is a process that, as you have heard, started from the priorities of climate policy in the city of Grenoble and narrowed the focus to defining the challenge for today's discussion. But we still need, as I said, an extra jump to the requirements which we will have to put into the call for innovation partnership. And this is why we are so interested in listening from you and from the people connected remotely if there are suggestions for directions that this call should take in order to fulfill the requirements stated today in the challenge of the city of Grenoble to the best possible extent, keeping into account the budget limitations and keeping into account the state of technology. In our view, the talk for the time being should focus on these 3 topics. Data was already mentioned. Some of the data is existing, other is new. I anticipate that our colleagues from the city of Grenoble will be asked to provide a detailed list of the data sources and the platforms where data is already stored, if any, specifying whether we are discussing open or closed data. This has to do with the topic of interoperability, which is quoted below when we talk about technology, and it's normally a crucial aspect. Every time we add a new platform on the top of the existing ERP systems that are already in operation at city level. And then I said, people, we expect to know more on the role of citizens and more generally stakeholders in this activity. There could be categories of data where people are invited by themselves to become suppliers of this information. It's not mandatory, but it's something that makes sense to be mentioned in the brainstorming phase we are now in. And as I said already, it could make sense to identify a smaller area of the city where we narrow our focus and involve the community of that pilot area in the execution of some activities. And finally, as far as technology is concerned, it's not only about decision support systems, as I could name the platform that was described earlier, but it could also be about additional components. There is this trend towards climate services, which are in practice decision support systems specialized in climate information management. But there is also citizen science, as I mentioned, which sometimes has technology in place to facilitate the procurement of data by the citizens themselves. There are gamification solutions all around, helping people perform certain challenging tasks because they have the incentive, for example, coming from competition with peers or specific small sized rewards. There is the interoperability, and there are also other legal and ethical aspects which may lead the city of Grenoble to identify what is normally known as a sandbox. Sandbox in this case means an area where the existing rules and regulations are loosened for the time of the experimentation, like an isolated space from the contamination of several or too many influences from laws, regulations, legal aspects, ethical aspects, where experimenters are left free to operate and see whether their specific innovation goals can be achieved. That could be mentioned in the call for tender, but it has to be discussed, and today is the first place where we can discuss about this. I'm coming to the end of this presentation, but before going to the end, I wanted to explain why the model of innovation partnership, which we will adopt for the call for tender, is so important, so attractive in our view. Try to read this slide from left to right. What is going to happen after the publication of our call in September is that a certain number of bidders will send us their technical bid. This makes a lot of sense because the call for tender will describe with more detail the challenge that was outlined today. It will take benefit, as I said, from the contributions received from today onwards until the end of July minimum, but it will be a technical description coming from the background of each single bidder. Normally, what happens in normal calls for tender is that the technical bid is accompanied by the financial offer, the price, and then the evaluation process starts. Here, we are planning to act differently. For each bidder and for each received technical bid, we will activate a bilateral negotiation. Practically, this means we will have a private meeting, this time absolutely secret, confidential, because we are embedded in the procurement process, during which the city of Grenoble will suggest possible improvements to the technical bid. So there will be an extra opportunity to improve the quality of the bid and also remove some aspects which may be relevant for the proposers, but the city representatives may say, no, we are not that interested in this extra feature, which may be expensive for you to provide, and therefore, if we drop it, it will be like an element of cost reduction, not to save at least on the cost of developing that extra feature, which is not of interest for the city. We promise to you, it will be formally stated in the call for tender, that each bidder will have their opportunity to discuss in private with the City Hall representatives the contents of their original bid and prepare a revision. Only the revision of the bid will be accompanied by the price. And the two things together will be used to prepare the ranking according to what is named MIT principle, with a bit of irony, standing for most economically advantageous tender. So the best price quality ratio will be ranked first, then there will be a second in the ranking, a third, and the first two solutions in the ranking, the first two solution providers in the ranking will be awarded, as I said earlier, with the price that they will be asking for their service. Last couple of slides, I don't know if Matteo would like to go deeper into the details. At the moment, I am just rushing to the end. I have two slides with the 8 cities being part of this experiment, and then I will pass the floor back to the organizers. In Sofia, we already had a very nice preliminary market consultation workshop. It was about solutions that can help people change their driving habits, but especially solutions that can give to the city the information on the occupancy rate of the parking slots, which especially in the city center are extremely booked, making it a real issue to find a place where to park the car, and therefore creating pollution because of that. And that was very interesting, and a lot of alternative options were discussed, and some of them were also put in writing, as I mentioned, after the event. Now we are speaking, and we know about the challenge of Grenoble. Next week, we will have Athens next Monday, with the idea of an app to provide incentives to people provoking active citizenship and behavioral change. And we will also have in the city of Differdange a similar workshop to today's workshop on topics which seem to be close to the vision that was presented today by the city of Grenoble. And then we have a second group of cities, starting with Torino, which will have tomorrow their preliminary market consultation, which will be about improving the efficiency of waste collection, especially with respect to electrical waste and textile waste, thanks to the participation of people, of families. And then we will have in Cascais a similar challenge, more focused on bio-waste, but still on textile waste, and another similar challenge in Maribor. So in this case, the overlaps are more evident. A different target will have the city of Ioannina in Greece, aiming to solve the issue of pollution of a lake they have within the perimeter of their territory, reducing the carbon footprint of human behaviors from both the perspective of citizens and tourists. So maybe this challenge may be compared to some extent to what we are discussing today. I am done. You have my email address here, but especially I encourage you to contact the clamaboro.eu website, where you will find 8 dedicated pages to the 8 cities that are in this challenge, and all of them experiencing the same process, the same pathway as I tried to describe. I remain obviously open to your questions today, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Francisco. Avant la sorte de questions, j'ai quelques réponses.
I do have some answers of the elements concerning the questions that you have brought our attention to. The first one is concerning the scope or parameter to choose to experiment the tool and to test its development. The idea is not to start with well, we're actually concentrating on the Grenoble-Alpes. However, to measure the climate change adaptation, it would be good to say the Grenoble-Alpes is a good level because we can have interaction with different projects. And typically, we have the public spaces that are in certain neighborhoods. So we think this is a good level. However, we want to start with the Grenoble-Alpes, and this is a territorial level which is consistent, which has a project dynamic situation. So we can really provide information to the tool and we can fine tune the tool thanks to having that level of location, and also having the involvement of citizens and participation of citizens. The tool is a technical tool. However, all of the projects in the urban area, the Grenoble-Alpes, are done with participation of our citizens. This is part of the DNA of the Grenoble-Alpes and the way we proceed. The idea is we use this tool with participation of citizens for the Grenoble-Alpes, so we can use the tool to communicate on the evaluation. We can share the results of modelization within this approach. It's a tool where the use will be done based on participation of citizens. However, of course, it's a technical approach, and so it's an innovative market. So we will be involved in with the technical aspects, with technical experts. However, it's an urban project, and so we really want to have participation of citizens as well. And the other point concerning the data starting point, when we have the launching, we can be more precise about the data and aggregation of data. We are not yet 100% at that level, but we can really take that up. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. I didn't understand the written contribution for the solution providers by the end of July. What is the purpose of that? I can show it to you. I'm going to look this up for you. So you can find this online. This is a Climaboro. This is a page dedicated to Grenoble, and you can download this. Here you can download this form. You can see you have just 4 pages. You have the description of the organization, organizer will make the proposal, and then you have the contents of the proposal, the idea, the prototype, as you can say, idea, prototype, or tested product service that already exist. Here, in the description of the challenge tackled, this is your interpretation, and then you have description of the social technical solution that you would like to see in the tender will be prepared. We ask you have this about the ownership. Is it held by third parties or not? What are the different challenges from your perspective in terms of availability of technology, different preconditions, social conditions requirements, social requirements, the estimated time required to actually implement the solution, and also the possibility of having estimated cost. You see, it's really simple. And we have the possibility of deciding, for example, if you have some parts of the application that you prefer not to disclose, so you can also identify those for confidentiality reasons, not to disclose certain contents by using the following boxes. And so this is this form that you can download. This is what I wanted to show you. Yes, so the mindset is to reposition the specifications concerning this state of the art so that in the specifications that we are sure that we have to ensure that this idea is not, we have to really, we don't know all the different solutions, what I'm trying to express. So this is preliminary approach to identify factors or not. And then based on what we had in mind, we say at this level, this is where we will push the marker up or down based on the approach that we have chosen. So this is a constraint. It's not a classical kind of market procurement situation.
If I may, there was a question from the outside of this meeting room. Given that this is a competition between the solution providers, providing the solution description openly seems to me delicate. Is this a mandatory step? Of course, it is not a mandatory step. As I tried to highlight previously, you basically have three options. One option, you can abstain from sending us any information about the solution you are in possession of. This will put you and your organization under the risk that doing the state-of-the-art analysis of similar platforms, which is something we will do before launching the call for tender, we will simply skip the solution by chance. Maybe it's the ideal one, but in our autonomous search for existing solutions in the state of the art, we simply miss it involuntarily. That's the first option. Second option is to use the template I highlighted earlier to send us the full information on this solution, which is of course, something that opens to the risk that others may be exposed to what you are writing in the document. But there could also be a third way of asking us to remove some of the parts, like the identifier, for example, of the solution, instead of showing it openly. Of course, there is no guarantee that your suggestions will be taken up, but if I were you, I would go maybe for this last option, because otherwise the risk would be very high that either we don't notice because we are not in your domain experts as you are, that some decision-making support platforms already exist which may fit into the requirements, or in case you decide not to disclose the name of the platform, but at least you supply to us some of the technical conditions and preconditions as it is shown in the template that can enable you to be a winner in case we go for identifying a solution like that. I think that the risk you should evaluate is that without even sending those technical identifiers for the conditions and the preconditions, finally the direction taken by the call might be away from giving a proper chance to you with your solution to be at least a bidder in this proposal. It's a hypothetical risk. Of course, we can survive if even nobody sends us anything. We will publish anyway the call with a bit more of information than what it was presented today. And then, as I said, we will use the opportunity given by the innovation partnership with the negotiation phase to give a second chance to all the solution providers with peer conditions to all in order to let them improve the quality of their technical bid before pricing it, and so before finalizing their offer, as it normally happens in conventional calls for tender. I hope that this is enough as an answer to your question. Otherwise, let me know. You can also take word, I think. Okay, thank you for the question.
On a d'autres questions? Oui.
Other questions?
I have another question about the budget. You mentioned the total budget is roughly 287 kilo euros. But you mentioned also that 2 bid tenders will be awarded. Does it mean that the total amount will be split between the two of them?
Yes, it will be split, but it's not predictable in which way. We could have, the winner could be a solution that only costs 50,000 euros, for example. And the second in the ranking can be the one that takes most of that amount. We don't know because it's not predictable. We also have another dilemma in mind, considering that we are speaking of 8 lots. There could also be the possibility of saving some money in one lot and moving it to another lot where the first two in the ranking globally have more than 287,000 euros of demand. It's a kind of flexibility that we want to keep for ourselves. For sure, what we are aiming at is a mechanism that pays in full for the price of the two solutions we want to award. So 287,000 is an indicative amount for the two of them, but we cannot say it's half for the first and half for the second. This is not what is going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Si vous n'avez pas d'autres questions,
If you don't have any other questions. Yes, a question. Yes, there's a question.
have totally a budget more than 280,000, there will be a negotiation phase and they will not be ineligible. No, the negotiation will never consider the price. The negotiation will only consider the quality. Then, like I just said, after preparing the list of the 16 awarded projects, we will see whether we can move some resources from one to another, but for sure, if we award, it will be something we can afford. So there will be enough budget to pay for the price offered by the two winning proposals in each of the 8 locations. Don't worry about the budget. This is the message. Make your own price, considering that the price versus quality ratio is the only criterion we will use, and therefore there might be an incentive of for the participants of not asking too much above the indicative amount, which is stated as a base price.
Yeah, okay, maybe I can take the floor because it will be faster if I talk rather than writing. So, you know, when we will be proposing a project, we have to have a kind of roughly a budget in mind, right? So, looking to this, the presentation and reading the documents, it sounds to me that, you know, targeting like the half of that maximum amount seems to me a kind of a reasonable amount. So I think we would not take a risk of proposing something of 200, you know, or either 80, 100, 80,000. So we will target probably the half of that. And that was a bit my question. So if you will be ranking the, let me open my video as well. So since you will be ranking these projects based on the quality and price for sure, but at the end, if the total of those two, it's a bit higher than the, you know, the total. So I guess I will not be automatically considering the third proposal, which is maybe a bit less, but it is in the 280 something rank. So that was a bit my question.
Yes, yes. I think it's safe to think in terms of half of the total budget per each solution. This is something reasonable, and I think it is the way home. Nevertheless, this is the first time ever that something like this is done. You will find no past experiences like this with 8 cities, 2 solutions, a budget like this. So we are studying the issue to find elements of flexibility. For sure, when we publish the call, that will be the rule. No? So now we are discussing also to hear comments like yours and help us refresh our mind on certain aspects. For sure, when we state the law, the rule will be followed. And in any case, there is a general principle that if you were in a situation like a European research projects, there could be some kind of adjustment for the cost. But in this case, being a tender, the price that you make will be the price you are awarded. So in no case can ever happen that we ask you for a discount. That makes no sense. And the starting point at the moment to think of the value of your solution is exactly half of the value allocated to each city.
Okay, thank you. I got it.
You're welcome.
J'ai une petite question concernant la commande.
In the order, if I understood the platform, you have this modelization There's two different things here. Unfortunately, the speaker is not on mic. Interpreter cannot interpret. The question is about the order and interactivity. Is it modelization and platform? Both are asked. The basis is a platform. The platform is a basis to work, to evaluate, and it will be all this will be given to the platform. Everything that will be done and the modelization will not be isolated in a project. It will be common so that we can do the analysis in a territory or based on a theme, so we can cross check this information, a transversal approach. And there's another point, which is another subject, which is connected with the database, which is to design the project, define its characteristic, and to have forecasting of the results. For example, we'll start with that. For example, the soil and temperature will be the starting point. Does that answer your question? Now, concerning the temperature felt, what are you expecting for that in that area? And I want to know versus the platform competence. The interpreter apologizes, but he's not speaking on the mic. So he's talking about the modelization and the different issues. For example, use of machine learning for detection of objects. This has these different aspects. So two candidates are expected. So how do you coordinate this? We don't have an answer. We're not involved in the technological bricks. We hope that what we have to do, we want to assemble them in and have interoperability. We want to be able to measure impact, the constitution of data. And for example, and LIDAR, if we use LIDAR, yes, this is very central for the consortium. And the capacity behind this of working on mobilization, looking at impacts, for example. So if I do a building in this form or that, this would have this impact. So now we're talking about simulation, about the use of spaces. Yes, this would be an important part. We cannot have answers for these elements or bricks. We don't have the competence of assembling them. This is not the subject now. The subject is to have an answer to a question. What do we want to have for cities of tomorrow? Is the question. We are lucid at the local level. We're lucid about the constraints. It is. Well, maybe a European consortium, the consortium in general is the way to go. I wanted to go back over data. For the hub, we'd be working on the loading long term for new data loading and integration. Is that part of this mission? Is it something that will be automated? Celine? I don't have the answer right away, but what we're trying to do is to have automation for the data refreshing, updating. So the metropolitan data that we would be providing for the future system, they would be systematically updated. But it goes back over this issue you mentioned, modelization, which is behind that. You have the data for the different areas, and we have a temporal issue, timing issue related to data. So this is part of the answer. The challenge for us today is really the updating is very important. The impact is very important. Now we have 0, and it's not always, as you're saying, this question of the refreshing of data is really important, but the modelization also is an important issue. It's too bad that our other colleague could not stay because they have information on this. So there are processes that enable us to actually work on this issue. The data base can be evolving as the project is going underway. I'll give you a concrete example. You can use different, we don't have, for example, infrared or special tools. We have external data. And then we have data that can be extracted from the permits to construct, from the construction permit. So we have data that will be coming in a lot, and maybe we can use that to consolidate data, and we can automate and update. And for the different, we can use the construction permits and their achievement of the construction projects. My question is the mechanism for the loading in real time, et cetera, and is it going to be done on the platform? But in fact, we don't really know what data though we might need. So how do we handle that? We know we will have this data right away. Sometimes updating for some are slower, but with satellite, it's very precise. And that should, with satellite-based data, we should be able to update frequently in a high quality way. For example, so this is how we can have updating in my knowledge. So the updating sometimes in certain cases takes longer. Unfortunately, the speaker in the audience does not have a microphone, but he's asking about the candidate and the consortium. Is it done, how you will have a direct exchange? Will you have a template? Maybe there's a question for Francesco. I believe that one is for Francesco. What was the question, please? My question is,
after the template step, each one file the template, and after we built the consortium, or is it after the end? How makes this consortium state?
I'm not sure I got it. You mean here at the stage until the 31st of July?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Anyone can present anything. We are not interested in knowing if organization A or B have presented the idea or if they are planning to join their forces. We are not interested in that. The only thing we are interested in is to put a name and surname on every idea we receive. That's only for a matter of transparency. All the people registered for this meeting will see their names and surnames on the website of the consultation because it's a legal procedure. But at this stage, you can simply make your own proposal, even as an individual, and then act for the preparation of the tender when the time comes.
And after the belief have to answer. And this is for this stage. The consortium is for this steps. There are many persons submit, and after we have to each belief have to propose submit the project, and is it necessary consortium at this step? No. Okay.
No.
Okay. This is individual. This is idea.
Yes, it's just for a statistical reason. No, you put your signature explaining that you act as an individual because you are a creative person, you are an inventor, so you have this solution because you invented it, or you are working for a company which is the owner of the solution, and so that's why you send us that contribution, because the company you work for has a patent, for example, for that solution. Or you can choose any other model. It's not important for us at this stage. Of course, when the time comes, we will check whether you belong to that organization, for example, because there will be a call for tender and we will need to identify the participants, but that's for the future. For now, anyone can contribute with ideas, and we welcome these ideas irrespective of who is sending them to us. We only ask to sign because there can be, even here, there can be a problem of property rights, no? Because you may, in principle, you may also want to describe a solution that you are not the owner of, in which case it can create some problem for the contents. No, it's crazy thing. It will never happen. But for this reason, we need a name and surname associated to each contribution, taking the responsibility for the contents. That's the point. But anyone can be the signatory of a contribution. I hope it answers to your question.
Est-ce que vous avez d'autres questions?
Do you have any other questions?
No, there was one, but I answered because it was like a private question about participation of non-EU countries, especially there was Switzerland as a case mentioned therein. Our approach is the following. We are 100% sure that we will open our call to the participation of all countries belonging to Horizon Europe. This because the money comes from Horizon Europe. And so a company established in Tunisia, for example, in principle, they can participate because Tunisia is associated to Horizon Europe. A problem comes when we speak about Switzerland, because they have a strange association agreement at the moment. So I cannot predict exactly, but it's one of the topics we are studying now. considering that procurement is other than the financing of research and innovation, and there are higher level agreements on public procurement at the level of WTO, where Switzerland is also a member. So we will probably have to issue a formal statement. For sure, there will be, the principle will be stated in the call for tender. But before then, we anyway welcome contributions also from Switzerland in terms of proposals, as from any other part of Europe, and also above and beyond Europe. So any contribution is welcome. We will study the issue and probably decide to be as open as possible. These borderline cases, I'm always in favor of keeping them in rather than out, because of the consequences of keeping someone out illegally or with a poor legal basis. But this is my personal opinion.
Eh bien, s'il n'y a pas d'autres questions, on vous propose, avant
So if we don't have other questions, we propose a small step. We're talking about the Grenoble challenge, and there are 7 other challenges. We have a short video that we have prepared to present the 7 other challenges. Maybe these initiatives can be inspiring for you, for Grenoble-Alpes Métropole. And so I hope it will be useful for you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Bastien.
Yes.
On Zoom, we don't hear. There is no sound.
Ah bah ça, j'y peux rien, malheureusement. Mais par contre, on enverra la vidéo avec...
On va la mettre
voilà,
avec les documents.
en ligne.
Okay.
So the interpreter has heard the video. So this is the Athens, in charge of the IT system. Athens, DAM, the digital agency of Athens. City officials have set the goal to develop city commitment to climate change. This means a complete behavioral change of citizens. To do this, the proposal is to set up digital tools to create a dialogue between the city through visualization of data, gamification, or other tools. that will be proposed. The aim is to have a more sustainable approach to energy consumption. This is for the city of Athens. The Grenoble-Alpes Métropole, you've already heard about that a few minutes ago from Bastien Dalmasso, so I'm not going to go over that now. The challenges for the next hub is from waste to circularity. You have the cities listed here: Torino, Cascais, Maribor, Ioannina. And we'll start with the city of Torino. Concerning the city of Torino, the project is focusing on questions of electronic and texture waste to increase awareness on their impact to have their streams become better known and to stimulate recycling and innovative circular actions. And therefore, we'd like to have a strong data system to identify gaps, to closely analyze CO2 emissions. It also aims at improving knowledge to increasing awareness about the waste amongst its citizens, especially regarding opportunities to facilitate recycling in a circular and participative economy logic. For Torino, and then next we will have in a second the city of Cascais, a city near Lisbon and on the Atlantic. And in the city of Cascais, the goal is to concentrate on textile waste to involve households in different ways of using this waste. It aims at developing collective data system to monitor and to handle the waste streams for textiles, and their proposal is to have the creation of a data platform and different digital solutions to help better understand usage and to increase the awareness and education of the population. These are the main expectations which fall within the framework of this project. And then next we'll have the city of Maribor in a second, which is the second city of Slovenia. And we will talk about their goals, which is to set up a system capable of following and analyzing the entire waste cycle to help with identification of the main stakeholders and also to know about the different actions underway. This will involve data, firstly, and awareness, and to rally the motivation of citizens and different actors, public officials, for behavior change. The city of Maribor proposes to have different digital solutions, particularly regarding the Internet of Things, to optimize the entire value chain for recycling by setting up sensors locally. Maribor would also like to have other tools set up to improve the awareness and knowledge of the impact of mixed waste, which will highlight the potential opportunities that exist to recycle at the local level using data analysis. And next in a second, we will have the city of Ioannina in Greece and what their proposal is all about, or their challenge, to meet their challenge. So this city of Ioannina, we'd like to work on the question of the quality of water with tools combining data collection and monitoring the environmental impact as well as the effects due to behavioral change. The target group includes tourists, but other local and economic actors. Ioannina would like to work on the production of data in a more systematic and continuous way to improve the knowledge and to raise awareness on the impact and carbon footprint of various stakeholders' activities locally, and they want to support systematic and productive collaboration of all local stakeholders and sharing of its innovative technical solutions to contribute to the improvement of water quality and the protection of the ecosystem of the lakes. And you can find more detailed information concerning all the different challenges at the Climat-Bureau EU website page. And you can consult the public procurement open calls for all the different projects that will be presented in webinars like the one we're holding today. Sophia has already held theirs on the 3rd of July, and the recording will be available soon. And of course, if you desire, you can register through the Climat-Bureau website, Climat-Bureau EU Public Procurement Open Calls website, and get to know the different proposals set by each of the partner cities. Thank you for your attention. If you don't have any other questions, I invite you to actually register the other webinars. We can propose to stop here. We thank you for your kind attention. In any case, if you are registered, then you will be receiving all the different documents and you will become informed about all the different steps of this approach. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Have a lovely day and enjoy your meal. Bon appétit.